Okay, so we're back in the MapWindow GIS. Hopefully you figured out how to open up and bring up your map that we created earlier with all our field boundaries in it. And now we're going to put in certain practices that are going on this farm to incorporate issues that we deal with, waterways, in this case a pond, and then we're also going to set up distances to certain things that we set from distance measurement. Again, all these things go into nutrient management and farm planning and manure management as we look at. Well, our fields are there, but at this point, I'm going to turn the fields off because I just want to see this underneath. And you're going to need to be a little bit familiar with your farm as you look at this and put in these practices. So I'm going to actually zoom in to the north part of the farm here, and I'm going to start out by putting in some waterways. And by doing that, I'm going to come up here to MM Tools, and I'm going to add layer. And I'm going to add a practice layer and a waterway, not feature layer, but practice layer down here. Waterway is a line, so I'm going to add it as a line. Put that in there, and I'm going to call this a grass waterway as we put it in here. Ways, because there are going to be several. I'm going to click OK, and let that generate over here. And then I'm going to come up here to add shape. For my grass waterway, make sure your grass waterway is the one that's selected. And my grass waterway really starts about here and comes down through here. And I'm drawing in, and this is our main one. There are tributaries that come into it. We're going to draw this one in, and again, it'll catch up eventually. And our grass waterway is going to actually end up in the pond here. So I'm going to take it right into the pond, and I'm going to end it by right-clicking again. That's how you end a feature. Now, we got a little different thing here with the grass waterway. First thing is practice name. We're going to call this one Grass Waterway 1. I'm just going to identify it as first one. Actually, we'll just call it Waterway 1 to keep the name short. Actually, yeah, let's keep it so it goes with practice. So Grass Waterway 1, then we need to view practices. We got to give this practice a number. When we do that, it's going to open up a web page here that we're going to look at, and in here you'll find a table. If you click right up here where it says National Conservation Practice Standards, we'll find a table here, and we need to find the number. And this is the number I'm looking for, 472. That's access control, access road. You got all kinds of them. Well, it's a grass waterway, so I'm going to click on G here, take me down a little ways, and here's my grass waterway, and that is code 412. That's what I'm going to put in for that code. So I'll just minimize this, come back in here, and put in 412. Now, the next question is manure setback distances. You could click on this, but right now it's not working. I'm not sure why there's a bug in the program that it's not working, but if I click on that, it's not going to, it's going to, well, let's do it. It comes up with directory not found. Okay, so what is my setback? Well, typically what I'd like to make sure is I have a 50-foot buffer around anything like a grass waterway. Some people like to have a little more than that, 60 to 100, but we're going to say at least 50. And what I mean, we should actually, let's put it this way, a manure application setback would be 200 feet, okay? But if I'm going to put a buffer on there, in other words, that waterway is going to have 50 foot of grass before it actually gets to the water, I can get back with a 50-foot waterway. But if I were farming right up to that water, to the edge of it, I need 200 feet because it's not going to stop it from getting in there. But a 50-foot grass strip along that waterway would stop it. So I'm going to go with 50 foot. That's best practice to have a grass buffer on there and put that as my setback in there. Click OK. And it'll draw in that waterway there as we look at it. And actually names it and gets to the number 50 foot. And if you know, if you turn on your setbacks now, and I just click over here on the left side, turn on setbacks, there's that 50-foot buffer. So that's area I want to avoid with manure, okay? I don't want manure in that area because I don't want to get in there. Anyway, I've got more waterways on this farm. I'm going to go ahead and draw in all the waterways on this farm and pause while I do that and then show you what I've got for at least this farm. Again, on your own farm, be drawing in your waterways. Okay, so I've drawn in all my grass waterways now. The next thing I want to do is I've got a pond here, and I also got some sediment trap basins in a couple different places on this farm. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom into that pond area. And we're going to add a practice. So we're going to go back to MP Tools, add layer. And this kind, it's going to be a polygon, not a line. So I'm going to click polygon, and I'm just going to call it Farm Pond. And click OK. And again, we're going to draw that in. just by using the shapefile editor. And sometimes it's a little tough to trace with all the trees in there. So some of this I'm guessing on where the actual edge of the pond is at. And we're going to call it Farm Pond. Again, we're going to view practices. And I'm going to pause while I find the practice for you rather than search around while you're watching it. So that's easy. It's just called pond. So it's a number 378 as we look at it. So we'll go back to our map and label it as 378. And again, I'm going to put a buffer strip, a grass strip all the way around that of 50 feet. And it looks like it pretty much got that around there as we look at it now. Practice consider water and phosphorus loss risk in that. Yeah, this would actually be considered water because the grass waterways, they're never really full of water year round, just when they're running. But if it's a constant waterway which is constantly running, then I would probably check this because it is a phosphorus loss and considered normal water. Clip any overlapping fields. Sure. Treat the practice as a non-spreading area. Treat practice as a spreadable area. I would say treat the practice as a non-spreadable area, period. If it's overlapping a field, then we'd want to clip it also. So we're just going to click OK here. Are you sure you want to clip any? Don't want to clip any overlapping fields? Yeah, let's cancel that. Let's go ahead and clip the overlapping fields. I don't think we have any, so we'll click OK with that. The field boundaries have been established. There's my farm pan. You can see the buffer pretty much covers there. It shouldn't go into any of the overlapping fields, but if it did clip that now, so I don't have those as part of my field. Another thing that we have on this farm that you may or may not have on your farm is a sediment basin. They kind of look like ponds, but right here, this basically is not designed to be a pond with fish or anything in it. It's just to trap sediment to keep it from getting into the pond. So we're going to add another practice. So we're going to go MapWindow Tools, add layer, another polygon practice, and we're going to call it a sediment basin. We're going to click OK. And again, draw that one in there. So we're going to come up here, add a shape for that one. And again, sediment basin. One. And we're going to call that number 350. We can look it up if you want. Come down here. Basically, it's number 350 is what it is as far as a practice. Again, let's do a 50-foot setback. Although from a sediment basin, probably wouldn't need as much setback, but we're going to go ahead and see that. We're just going to say it's a non-spreadable area, not necessarily clip any overlapping field on that one because it may fill up in there. So that's basin one. If we move the map around, there's another one up north here. As I come up, and that's another sediment trap basin there, so we'll just add that one in. And make it a little bit bigger than the basin as we look at it. Again, sediment basin 2. It's a 350. Put on that 50-foot buffer again. And again, treat it as non-spreadable area and click yes. And then one last thing I want to add to my map is what we have is a wetland. Just below the pond. It's just basically a natural occurring wetland. Right down in this area, there's a big wetland. It's not farmed, not grazed in or anything like that. So I'm going to add in that. Oops, excuse me, not as added as shape. We're going to add that as a new practice. Add layer and another practice layer. And we're going to call this a wetland. And click OK on that. Again, draw that in. Down here below the tear, it would be below the pond dam. And, you know, it kind of overlaps with our creek there. And we're going to call that a wetland. Practice, we'll go look at our practice sheet here. And we had several wetlands in there: creation, enhancement, restoration. Well, this is one that's really kind of in existence. We really don't do anything to it. So I guess I would just call it wetland wildlife habitat management. So I'm going to give it a number 644. May not be correct with NRCS as we look at that, but at least it'll fit our purposes right here for our map. Oops, 644, right? And setback again, I'm going to go same with that 50-foot setback on there. In this one, I will clip any overlap fields because there shouldn't be any, but just in case. And we're going to click OK. And it's considered a phosphorus source, probably. So we'll click OK there. And that puts that wetland in. Zoom out to our full extents here. And you can see our map with all the waterways and the 3 practices that we just added in there, the basins, the 4 practices, excuse me, the 2 sediment basins, the pond, and the wetland as we look at it. Now, the next thing is I'm going to do some distance measurement. This is primarily for the manure management aspect of this as we go with it. So we're going to come into adding a layer, and you come down here, you got distance to water layer and distance to manure storage layer. So we're going to basically come first distance to water layer because all the waterways are driven are in there. We're going to add that as a layer. We're going to turn our fields back on as we look at that. And we kind of got a mess here. I'm going to try and turn off all my labels so I don't have that to deal with. I'll pause while I do that. Okay, so I want to turn off the labels. Again, if you don't remember how to do that, right-click on whatever field you want labels turned off of and go to the label field properties at the bottom of the list, and then it's in there that you turn it off. So I'm going to start at basically the north end. So basically I want to go from the center of the field to the nearest water source and where it's running. Again, you're going to need to be a little bit familiar with your farm, knowing where that's at. So I'm going to come up here, and here's my distance to water. Make sure it's selected. Come in and add a shape, and we're going to click from the center of the field to the waterway. And then finish. Takes care of that one. And then over here, center of the field to the waterway. And come on. Take some time to the waterway. Again, you need to be familiar with farm and where the center of the field is and where the nearest waterway is. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up for all the other fields, and I'll let you draw while I do that. Okay, so I drew in all my lines from the center of my field to the nearest water way and the distance of measurements in there. The next thing I got to do is the manure storage structure. I've got to draw that in and then distance to that. So I'm going to zoom into my manure structure here on this farm. Wherever you happen to be storing manure, that's what we want to address here. And there's my manure storage area. So I'm going to come up here to MMM Tools, and we're going to do add a layer, and we're just going to call this a polygon layer, feature layer polygon. And we're going to call this manure storage. Click OK. And I'm going to add a shapefile to that. And I'm going to actually just go around this whole area here because we'll be hauling from both of these areas. And just draw a rectangle around that for my manure. And I don't need any setback from that. Don't need anything here. We could treat it as a spreadable area, but we're not going to. We're just going to click OK, and that's there. So that puts my manure structure in there. I'm going to zoom back out to full extent. And now the same thing, and I'm going to turn off my distance to water and turn off my grass waterways, my farm pond, my sediment basin, and my setbacks. So it cleans up my map just a little bit. Yeah, turn off the wetlands there too. So all I have basically is my fields and my manure structure. So the next thing I'm going to do is come into MMP Tools, and I'm going to do, again, add layer. This time it's going to be a distance to manure storage layer, and that'll come in here, distance to storage layer. I'm going to go ahead and add a shapefile, and I'll just start with the closest one, move there, do the manure, end it, and that'll put that one in. And again, from the center of the field, all the field to the manure structure, go ahead and do all those there. We use an umbilical cord to go out there and spread manure, so just telling us how far we got to go with that manure. I'm actually going to stop this map right here and stop the video. I'll go ahead and finish this on my own, obviously, but I'm going to stop the video, let you draw those in. Again, when you're all done, go up to File, Edit, and export this map and submit this map as you're all done. Okay, that's all we're going to do for this video, just so you can go ahead and finish it up yourself.